Did you know that every time you conclude a prayer with Amen, you are actually paying homage to an ancient Anunnaki alien man? This extraterrestrial being, known as Marduk, later deified as Amun-Ra in Egypt, has left a hidden mark on humanity that stretches back thousands of years. According to recent modern interpretations, Marduk wasn't just a mythical figure or an imagination of ancient civilizations. He was a real ancient extraterrestrial royal man who once walked the earth, shaping civilizations and demanding worship from human beings. It was he who decreed that his name be spoken at the end of prayers, ensuring his influence would echo through the ages. As the chief deity of Babylon, Marduk's dominion over the ancient world was absolute. And though history has masked his presence, his control never truly faded. Today, his power endures, woven into religious traditions, secret societies, and the very political structures that govern our world. His followers, known as the Sons of Belial, continue to uphold his supremacy from the shadows. Marduk was part of an Anunnaki lineage known as Omicron, which aligned with Nibiruan forces during the struggle for control over the Giza Stargate. This faction played a key role in major conflicts, including the Luciferian Rebellion. Over time, they sought influence by replacing key spiritual lineages and taking control of sacred sites. By installing a series of Marduk-aligned Babylonian kings in what is now Iraq, they established an empire that strategically controlled key stargates connected to multiple dimensions. Over generations, hybrid bloodlines associated with this faction continued to hold power in various parts of the world, shaping political and spiritual systems. Some accounts suggest Marduk had conflicts with other cosmic factions, such as the Kumaras, over the history of Orion-related wars. His influence extended to the Supreme Anunnaki Assembly, which emerged following the destruction of Marduk. From Sumerian texts, we know that he adopted the name Amun, which originally meant the Hidden One in Atlantean. Over time, ancient ancestors altered its meaning to signify "so be it" or "truly." Marduk, also known as Amun-Ra, emerged as one of the most complex and commanding figures in Mesopotamian mythology, rising from the traditions of Babylon to become the king of the gods. Initially tied to agriculture and fertility, Marduk's role expanded as Babylon's power grew, absorbing the attributes of older gods like Enlil, the ruler of Nippur, and Anu, the supreme sky god of the Sumerians and Akkadians. According to Sumerian and Egyptian texts, Marduk fathered offspring who were half human and half Anunnaki. His sons were Satu and Asa, Satu being the equivalent of Set in Egyptian mythology, while Asa is known as Osiris. Marduk's grandchild Haron is recognized as Horus in Egyptian lore. Historically, Marduk's ancient symbols reveal much about the divine status that the Egyptians and Babylonians held him. The spade, representing his dominion over the earth, and the Mushushu, a dragon serpent and lion emblem, signified his unmatched extraterrestrial power of draconian and Lyran significance. Babylonian texts describe him as a god of wisdom, justice, and healing, but also as a master of storms and war, like his uncle and commander of Earth Enlil. Marduk's rise to power was no mere coincidence. It was the result of deliberate political and religious shifts that elevated him above earlier gods. Originally a local deity in early Sumer and Kemet, his story was reshaped to portray him as the architect of creation, the vanquisher of primordial chaos, and the divine ruler of Earth. These narratives were immortalized in the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, which details his battle for supremacy and the establishment of divine kingship. Marduk's ascent to power marked a pivotal shift in cosmic history, signifying the transition from matriarchal to patriarchal rule. However, the tale of his rise was inherited from the chronicles of his ancient ancestor, An. Unwilling to remain a mere successor, Marduk reshaped this history, weaving himself into the legacy of his forebear, rewriting the narrative to place himself at its center. The defeat of Tiamat was more than a mythic battle. It was a symbolic turning point, Queen Tiamat's fall, along with the destruction of half of the planet that bore her name, disrupted the natural equilibrium, severing the connection to the 10th chakra, a vital link to higher spiritual wisdom. This event solidified the rise of a centralized, male-dominated hierarchy in the cosmos, reshaping both divine authority and earthly power structures. Some traditions suggest that forces from Alpha Draconis and Orion influenced this transition by disrupting the matriarchal era and imposing a system of planetary colonization, where extraterrestrial females from different worlds were bred to reshape humanity's evolution. The text begins. In the beginning, only the primordial waters existed. Abzus, the fresh water, and Tiamat, the salt water, churning together in an eternal embrace. From their union, the younger gods were born, their ceaseless clamor disrupting the stillness of the cosmos. Abzus, seeking to reclaim order, resolved to destroy them. Yet before he could act, Enki, the god of wisdom and father of Marduk, foresaw the threat and struck first. With cunning and power, Enki slew Abzus, claiming his dominion and establishing his own realm. But Tiamat, grief-stricken and enraged by the murder of her consort, vowed vengeance. From the depths of chaos, she summoned an army of monstrous beings, forging a formidable host led by her chosen champion, Kingu. The gods, terrified of Tiamat's wrath, searched desperately for a savior. Amid their turmoil, Marduk stepped forward. He promised to face the great dragon, but only under one condition: absolute sovereignty over the cosmos. The gods, desperate for salvation, conceded to his demand. Armed with divine weapons, a net to ensnare his foe, and a raging storm to subdue her, Marduk prepared for battle. The heavens shook as Marduk confronted Tiamat. With a mighty wind, he forced her jaws open, driving a tempest into her depths, rupturing her vast body. As the echoes of their clash faded, Marduk divided her remains. One half raised to form the sky, the other stretched into the earth. With the chaos subdued, he set the stars and planets in motion, carving the paths of time itself. Marduk's legendary triumph over the formidable dragon queen Tiamat and her monstrous legion during an Anunnaki intervention on Earth approximately 350,000 years ago earned him immense respect and recognition. The Anunnaki, in appreciation of his victory and leadership, conferred upon him 50 titles, each of great significance, marking him as the supreme ruler of the gods. The number 50 held special importance, for it had once been linked to his uncle Enlil, whom Marduk supplanted as commander god of Earth after his reign. Now ruler of the cosmos, Marduk established divine order. He shaped Ashara, the heavenly domain, assigning roles to the gods to govern the elements and the stars. Turning his gaze to the newly formed earth, he completed his creation, fashioning humanity from the blood of Kingu, the fallen consort of Tiamat. This new race, bound by divine decree, was tasked with upholding the order of the universe and serving the gods. Operating from an orbiting saucer-like craft or shining sun disk, Amun-Ra's dominion expanded far and wide, with ancient Babylon at its heart. Amun-Ra, known to some as Marduk, may have claimed the loyalty of his followers, but the truth is, his rise to power was never fully accepted by the Anunnaki elite. They never truly favored him, and for good reason. His struggle for dominance wasn't just about ambition, it was deeply rooted in his own family lineage. Marduk, meaning one who was born in a pure place. Marduk was born to Enki, the eldest royal prince of Nibiru. Marduk's mother, Ninki, was the daughter of the late King Alalu and Enki's wife. Enki himself was the son of King Anu, but despite his lineage, Marduk's path to power was never straightforward. The throne of his father was never meant for him. It was usurped by his half-brother, Enlil, the only true son of King Anu and Queen Antu. For millennia, Earth became a war zone, caught in the crossfire of powerful extraterrestrial forces, especially the royal tribes of Nibiru. In this cosmic struggle, Marduk stood out, not just as an ambitious ruler, but as one of the most relentless and controversial figures in Anunnaki history. His hunger for supremacy drove him to challenge not only his rivals, but even the very foundations of the Anunnaki hierarchy itself. His ambitions led him to play a pivotal role in the catastrophic Pyramid Wars, which erupted over 50,000 years ago across Africa and the Middle East. These brutal conflicts, fought between rival Anunnaki factions, were centered on control over Earth's resources, sacred sites, and powerful stargates. Wielding advanced weaponry capable of energy-based devastation and gravitational displacement, Marduk reshaped entire landscapes, transforming once lush regions into barren wastelands. His ultimate goal was not just territorial dominance, but to establish himself as the supreme deity worshipped by humankind, a species genetically engineered in the Garden of Eden under the direction of the Anunnaki geneticists. It was during this time that Anu and Enki made a pivotal decision. Marduk was appointed as the commander-in-chief of Mars. The Red Planet, serving as a crucial way station for transporting gold back to Nibiru, became his dominion, earning him the title of the God of Mars. For several Shahs, Marduk resided on the planet, overseeing operations and ensuring the smooth transit of resources vital for the survival of their world. In time, Mars itself came to bear his name, a testament to his long-standing presence there. Unlike the desolate wasteland it would become in later millennia, Mars at this time was a world of striking contrasts. Its northern lowlands cradled vast bodies of water, remnants of ancient seas and sprawling shorelines that stretched beneath the thin, rust-hued sky. The Martian beaches, though devoid of palm trees or the sounds of wheeling seabirds, were lined with frost-laced sands, where icy winds whispered across the waves. The air was thin, its chill biting, but life, though sparse, clung to the planet in ways still barely understood. Towering volcanic mountains loomed in the distance, their shadows stretching across plains where dust storms raged with unpredictable fury. The Igigi, the labor force stationed on Mars, were composed entirely of male Anunnaki and various off-world recruits, beings of different planetary origins, bound together by their servitude. Many hailed from ancient star systems, drawn into the Anunnaki's grand design, yet they found themselves trapped in endless toil. They maintained the launch stations, monitored celestial cycles, and ensured that the flow of resources from the mines of Abzus to the distant world of Nibiru remained uninterrupted. But their burdens were great, and their discontent festered like an open wound. For too long, they had labored under harsh conditions, far from their homelands, deprived of companionship and the joys of a life beyond servitude. Marduk, despite his position, could not ignore their growing unrest. In private, he confided in his father, Enki, warning him of the rising tensions. Whispers of rebellion carried on the Martian winds. Yet, it was during his tenure on Mars that Marduk encountered a force that neither he nor the Igigi had foreseen. While patrolling the outer regions of the Red Planet, he detected an unidentified fleet piercing the cold void, an ominous formation of draconian warships, their jagged hulls glistening under the pale Martian sun. The arrival of the draconian fleet was swift and without warning. Marduk's vessel, outnumbered and outmaneuvered, was seized in a ruthless ambush. The Draconians, ancient adversaries and opportunistic conquerors, took him captive, their reptilian gazes gleaming with malice as they dragged him aboard their warship. For what seemed like an eternity, Marduk remained imprisoned within the metallic confines of their ship, subject to their cold, calculating interrogations. Yet it was during his captivity that he was revealed a disturbing truth. The Draconians were not alone in their operations. In the vast, underground caverns of Mars, Marduk saw them in secretive dealings with another species, beings with elongated skulls and thin, frail bodies, their dark abyss-like eyes betraying no emotion. The Greys. These entities moved with eerie precision, their presence a stark contrast to the imposing scaled figures of the Draconians. They were not prisoners nor slaves, but collaborators, exchanging something of great value. What Marduk witnessed left him unnerved. The Zeti Reticuli Greys were scavenging remnants of an ancient Martian civilization, extracting artifacts and forgotten technology, devices pulsating with an unknown but potent energy. The Draconians, in turn, seemed intent on deciphering these relics, hoping to harness the lost knowledge of Mars for their own purposes. Marduk observed the silent transactions, his mind racing with the implications. The technology was old, older than the Anunnaki presence, hinting at a forgotten age when Mars had thrived with power. What were the Draconians seeking to unlock? But fate intervened in the form of an unexpected ally. Semjaz, a fellow Draconian Atlantean and a friend from ages past. Though loyal to his own kind, Semjaz held a deep respect for Marduk and his lineage. He knew that allowing Marduk to remain a captive would shift the balance of power in ways unforeseen. Secretly, he orchestrated Marduk's escape, leading him through the labyrinthine corridors of the Draconian warship and into the Martian wilderness before reinforcements could arrive. Marduk returned to his domain with a hardened resolve. He now understood that Mars was more than a mere way station. It was a battleground in a much greater cosmic struggle. The Draconians, who were the ancestors of the Nibiruans, had made their presence known. The Igigi were on the brink of defiance, and the shadows of an ancient past were stirring. The storm was coming. Semjaz, having risked everything for Marduk's freedom, could no longer return to his own people. With nowhere else to go, he journeyed to Earth, seeking refuge among the Atlanteans. There, he found a new purpose, joining the ranks of the Watchers, those who observed and safeguarded the realms of mortals. His knowledge of Draconian tactics made him invaluable, and he swore to remain vigilant against the encroaching darkness. As for Marduk, his mind was restless, even in the solitude of the Martian nights. One evening, as he lay beneath the cold expanse of the stars, he was visited by a dream, one so vivid that it burned itself into his soul. In his vision, he saw himself standing upon the land of Kai, the world of Earth. But he was not merely standing. He was building. Stone upon stone, pillar upon pillar, he constructed a great way station, a bridge between the heavens and the land of men, a gateway that would reach into the celestial realms, a conduit through which gods could ascend and descend. It was a vision of a future yet to come, a destiny intertwined with the fate of the Anunnaki. When he awoke, the whisper of the dream lingered in his mind, like the echo of a prophecy yet to unfold. By the time Marduk was recalled to Earth, history had taken a monumental turn. The first humans had been successfully created through genetic modification. The long-held experiment had reached its fruition. All the Atlanteans, including Marduk, gathered to witness this new creation, showcased within the Garden of Eden under the dominion of Enlil. For Marduk, it was a moment of awe, curiosity, and perhaps even unease. These beings, fashioned in the likeness of the Anunnaki, yet distinct in their own right, represented a future neither he nor the others could fully predict. The ancient Sumerian texts recount that Marduk played a significant role in the life of Abel, the biblical figure. More than just a ruler or overseer, he became Abel's mentor, his guide in the ways of the heavens and the earth. He taught Abel to observe the stars, to read the cosmic language that governed fate. He instructed him in the art of cultivation, showing him how to nurture the land and grow crops rich enough to be worthy offerings. Marduk cared for Abel as one might care for a favored student or even a son. But fate would be cruel. When Cain, driven by jealousy and fury, struck down his own brother, Marduk was devastated. The weight of the betrayal and the loss of Abel filled him with a deep and consuming rage. In his anguish, he declared that Cain should be put to death for his crime. Yet, divine laws intervened, and Cain was spared, sent instead into exile, his fate left to the harsh winds of time in the colder regions of the world. As Marduk's importance grew among mankind, Babylonian kings increasingly aligned themselves with him to legitimize their rule. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest legal codes, attributes its authority to Marduk, presenting the king as the deity's chosen ruler who enforces divine justice. Later rulers, including Nebuchadnezzar II, continued this tradition, dedicating grand temples and inscriptions to Marduk. Babylonian kings often participated in the Akitu festival, during which they reaffirmed their allegiance to Marduk. The festival included rituals that symbolically reenacted Marduk's victory over chaos, reinforcing the divine order he established. The high priest would guide the king through a series of rituals, ensuring that he remained in harmony with the god's will. Marduk absorbed aspects of many older Mesopotamian gods, reflecting Babylon's political dominance over rival city-states. His father, Enki, remained a significant figure representing wisdom and magic, but Marduk took over many of his functions. Similarly, Marduk's rise led to the diminishing influence of Enlil, the former head of the pantheon. In the times when the Annunaki Extraterrestrial walked with man on Earth, Marduk soared above the Earth in his celestial disk, the winged spaceship gleaming like a second sun against the firmament. The rivers below shimmered like molten silver, carving through the lands of Sumer and beyond. As his gaze followed the waters, he beheld her, Saproneet, a vision of mortal beauty, bathing along the riverbank with her handmaidens. Her long dark hair cascaded over her bronze shoulders, her laughter like the ringing of temple bells. But it was not just her beauty that struck Marduk. It was something deeper, an aura of wisdom and grace that seemed to call to him, beckoning him to the earth below. His heart, which had known the weight of battle, the bitterness of betrayal, and the coldness of duty, suddenly burned with a longing he had never known. Drawn to her, he appeared to her. The wind stirred the reeds as Marduk stepped onto the riverbank, his radiant form casting an otherworldly glow. The handmaidens gasped and fled, leaving Saproneet standing alone, her deep amber eyes locked onto his. Unlike the others, she did not bow or cower. She met his gaze with quiet curiosity. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice carrying both reverence and defiance. Marduk smiled. "I am Marduk, son of Enki, lord of the heavens and earth." Saproneet tilted her head, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "A god, then? I have heard of the Anunnaki, but I did not know they descended so near." Marduk was intrigued. She did not weep in fear or offer herself as others had before. She studied him with the eyes of one who understood the weight of destiny. "You are not afraid of me?" he asked. "Why should I fear one who stares at me as though he has lost himself?" she countered. Marduk laughed, a sound rare even to his own ears. "Lost? Perhaps. Or perhaps I have found what I did not know I sought." For days, Marduk returned to the river, watching Saproneet from afar, before daring to walk beside her. She was unlike the women of Nibiru, unlike the noble daughters of the Anunnaki. She did not seek power, nor wealth, nor the favor of the Anunnaki. She spoke of the stars with wonder, but also of the earth with deep love. She was both humble and fierce, gentle, yet unbreakable. One evening, beneath the light of the twin moons, she led him into the city of Eridu, where her ancestors had once walked alongside the gods. She showed him the sacred places, the wisdom left behind by Adapa, the first of his kind, who had dined with the Anunnaki, but had been denied eternal life. "The gods gave my ancestor knowledge, but not immortality," she said. "You call yourselves divine, yet even you war and suffer. What is godhood if it does not grant peace?" Marduk saw then that she was no mere woman. She was wisdom incarnate, an echo of something ancient, yet entirely new. In her words, he found reflection. In her presence, he found solace. It was not merely desire that drew him to her, but the realization that with her, he could become more than what he had been destined to be. Determined to claim her as his wife, queen of the gods, goddess of pregnancy, Marduk sought his father, Enki, and his grandfather, King Anu. The Anunnaki had always taken human women as concubines, but marriage, true union, was forbidden. "To wed her is to forsake Nibiru," Enki warned. "My birthright was already stolen from me," Marduk countered. "Let me claim a new one here on Earth. I will rule, but not alone. I will do so with my love, my wife." Anu and the Council of the Anunnaki deliberated for days. Some called it blasphemy, a dilution of their divine bloodline. others warned that such a union could set a precedent, causing a rift between gods and men. But there were those who saw in Marduk a ruler who could unite both worlds, who could bridge the divide between the heavens and the earth. At last the decree was given. "You may wed her," Anu declared, "but know this, the choice you make will alter the fate of gods and men alike." Marduk did not waver. He returned to Sapronate and knelt before her, offering not only his love but his kingdom, his war, his destiny. She placed her hand in his, sealing their fate, and thus, beneath the eternal stars, the god and the woman became one, ushering in an age where the divine and the mortal would no longer stand apart, but together. It was an extraordinary event of great significance, attended by ancient extraterrestrial Anunnaki civilizations, including the Pleiadians, Syrians, Andromedans, Lyrans, and Draconians, all under the one land banner of Atlantis. A vast number of the Igigi, later known as the Fallen Watchers or Angels, departed from Mars and the heavenly space station to Earth, leaving only a third of their brethren behind. 200 of them descended under the guise of attending Marduk's wedding to an Adamite woman. However, their true intentions were shrouded in secrecy, hidden even from Enki and Enlil. In reality, they had come with a far more audacious plan: to seize and mate with the daughters of Adam, the human women of Earth. After enduring centuries of isolation and hardship, their longing for companionship had become unbearable. Though they had once sworn an unbreakable oath never to bear offspring, their desire for children now overpowered their ancient vows. As they moved between Mars and Earth, they observed the Earthling women, whom they called the Adamites. The sight of these women stirred their desires, and together, the Fallen Watchers decided to choose wives from among them and have children. Semjaz, one of their leaders, became the driving force behind the plot. He boldly declared that even if the others disagreed, he would carry out the plan alone and bear the punishment for all. One by one, the other Fallen Watchers joined in, swearing an oath to follow through with the plan together. When Marduk's wedding to Sarpanit took place, 200 Fallen Watchers descended to Earth. They made their way to Eridu, passing through the bustling Earthlings' labor, and arrived after the ceremony had finished. At the prearranged signal, Shamgaz and the others seized Earthling maidens, abducting them by force. They took the women to their stronghold in the Cedar Mountains, where they issued a challenge to the Anunnaki leaders. They demanded the right to marry and have children with the daughters of Adam, and threatened to destroy the earth if their request was denied. The Anunnaki leaders were alarmed by this challenge and sent Marduk to confront the Fallen Watchers. Though Marduk unfortunately sympathized with their cause for being commander of Mars, he felt their unfair toil. Enki and Ninhursag reluctantly agreed, but Enlil was furious. He saw this as yet another misstep following the first, and he raged against Marduk and Enki. Enlil believed their sacred mission had been abandoned, and he feared Earth would also be overrun by the Earthlings. It was then, later, when Dumuzi, a son of Enki, perished as a consequence of his brother Marduk's actions, Marduk reclaimed control over the Black Lands from his fallen brother. However, he blamed Dumuzi's death on Inanna, granddaughter of Enlil. Upon seizing power on Earth, he commanded that all prayers end with his name, Amen, solidifying his dominance over human spirituality. Through the influence of secret priesthoods and ruling elites, this decree remained embedded in religious practices for thousands of years. Marduk's divine kingship was enforced through an intricate system of temple economies, where offerings, rituals, and blood sacrifices ensured his continued nourishment through the spiritual energy of his followers. His power on the battlefield was legendary. He wielded weapons forged from the celestial forges of Nibiru, capable of shattering mountains and reducing cities to dust. His armor, infused with divine golden energy, made him impervious to most attacks, while his war aerial craft imbued with destructive force rained devastation upon his enemies. With the Igigi at his command, Marduk controlled legions of hybrid warriors, genetically enhanced soldiers designed for conquest. The reptilian overlords supplied him with brutal enforcers and mind control techniques, ensuring his dominance over human populations, while the Lyrans, known for their mastery of energy weapons and mental manipulation, helped him construct an empire that stretched across the earth. For a time, Marduk was unstoppable, his rule unchallenged. He declared himself the supreme god of humanity, demanding worship and absolute obedience. Kingdoms fell before him, and even the Enlilites struggled to match his might. But his reign of terror met its greatest challenge when Ninurta, the warrior son of Enlil, and Inanna, the fierce goddess of war and love, rose against him. Ninurta, armed with the divine weapons of his father, was a master tactician and a warrior of unparalleled skill. His hammer, the thunderbolt of the gods, could tear through Marduk's defenses, and his aerial combat matched that of the Igigi fallen rebels. Meanwhile, Inanna, whose beauty concealed a ruthless and cunning warrior, brought her own forces to the battle. A mistress of deception and strategy, she wielded weapons of celestial energy and commanded legions of her own, striking at Marduk's allies with relentless ferocity. She understood the weaknesses of the Lyrans and Reptilians, using her divine influence to turn many against Marduk. Her presence on the battlefield was like a storm, unpredictable, devastating, and inescapable. After less than a shah of rulership, Marduk was put on trial by the Anunnaki leaders after a serious accusation arose regarding the death of Dumuzi. The trial took place near the pyramids, by the riverbank, where the Anunnaki gathered to hear the case. A god spoke on behalf of the accused, and despite his anger, Marduk's heart softened. He agreed to face judgment, and the trial commenced. It was clear that Marduk was responsible for Dumuzi's death, but the question was whether it was intentional or an accident. Though deserving of death, the gods debated if his crime had been deliberate. Marduk stood at the heart of a brewing storm. Inanna, his half-first cousin, swinging vengeance for Dumuzi's death, accused him and demanded retribution. She rallied support from her grandfather Enlil and the council, insisting that Marduk was a venomous force that needed to be eliminated. Enki, mourning Dumuzi, defended his firstborn. He called upon his sons. Gibil and Ninagal stood by Marduk, while Ningishzida, known as Thoth, opposed him, and Nergal hesitated. The conflict ignited into a war of devastating scale. Inanna, leading the charge, pursued Marduk into the lands of Enki's children, known as the Black Lands, modern-day West and South Africa. Ninurta and Ishkur unleashed powerful weapons, ravaging the land. Rivers ran dry, fields emptied, and the skies burned with war. Marduk fled north to the artificial mountains, seeking refuge within the mighty Ekur. Gibil cloaked him in an invisible shield, while Nergal raised the all-seeing eye to track his enemies. Inanna, relentless, attacked the Ekur with her brilliant weapon. Horus, defending his grandfather, suffered a grievous wound. The Anunnaki armies clashed at the foot of the mountain. The battle reached its climax when Ninurta, after relentless pursuit, uncovered a concealed passage within the Great Pyramid. With this newfound advantage, he and his allies launched a daring infiltration, navigating the labyrinthine corridors and bypassing Marduk's remaining defenses. The walls of the ancient structure trembled as the conflict raged within, each step drawing them closer to the heart of Marduk's stronghold. Realizing he was outmaneuvered, Marduk retreated deeper into the pyramid, seeking refuge in the great pulsating stone chamber, a sanctum of immense energy, said to resonate with the life force of the gods. Here, he made his last stand, invoking the power of the chamber to shield himself. But his adversaries, led by Ninurta, were relentless. With calculated precision, they sealed the passage behind them, driving Marduk further into the depths. It was then that the inner king's chamber was sealed shut, its colossal stone doors locking into place with an otherworldly finality. The pyramid itself became Marduk's prison, the once mighty god now entombed within his own sanctuary, cut off from escape and the forces that had long sustained his rule. The echoes of the struggle faded into silence, leaving only the pulsating hum of the chamber, as Marduk found himself trapped within the very heart of the power he had sought to control. He was the prisoner in the pyramid, During Marduk's period of entrapment, Egypt fell under a great curse, afflicted by plagues and devastation, believed to be the work of Yahweh, a figure often associated with either Enlil or Ninurta in Anunnaki lore. Amid this divine retribution, a young man named Moses, acting under Yahweh's command, rose as a leader. Guided by his celestial patron, he led a group of ancient Hebrews out of Egypt, escaping the oppressive rule of the pharaohs and the lingering influence of Marduk's fallen kingdom. Inanna and Ninurta convene with the Anunnaki Council to deliberate on Marduk's entombment. As the gods deliberated, Inanna, the great goddess, devised a solution. She proposed that Marduk be sentenced to death, not by execution, but by being buried alive within the Great Pyramid. He would be sealed inside with no food or water, alone to suffer. The gods agreed to Inanna's judgment, and the command was issued. The Great Pyramid became Marduk's prison, and its mistress, Inanna, was thereafter known as Mistress of the Prison. The sealing of the pyramid was completed as the granite plugs were set in place, trapping Marduk in the king's chamber. Though he could breathe, he had no means of sustenance. Alone and cut off, Marduk was left to die, imprisoned in agony for his actions. As the last blocks were sealed, the golden light of Ra, the very essence he had once commanded, was snuffed out. The chamber was engulfed in total darkness. Marduk's breath became shallow as he felt the weight of the stone above him, pressing upon his very soul. He reached out, his hands grazing the cold, immovable walls. The room pulsed with an eerie stillness, a suffocating silence. At first, anger fueled him. He pounded against the walls, his divine strength shaking the chamber. But the pyramid had been built to withstand even the wrath of gods. Its angles, its perfect alignment, absorbed his power, redirecting it into the vast energy grid beneath the sands. He screamed in fury, calling upon his father Enki, his loyal priests, his devoted followers. But there was no answer. Then came the hunger. Time stretched into eternity. He had been stripped of his celestial weapons, his access to the life-sustaining elixirs of the gods. His once immortal body, still bound to physical form, weakened. His throat burned with thirst. The torment of hunger gnawed at him. A cruel irony for a god who had once commanded entire civilizations to offer him feasts and riches. But the worst torment was the silence. No voices, no whispers of devotion from his followers, no sounds of life beyond the stone walls. Only his own heartbeat, slow and fading. He tried to meditate, to reach beyond the physical plane, but the pyramid's very design trapped him. It was a tomb, a prison of geometry and power, sealing his essence within. His mind drifted. He saw visions, hallucinations, or messages from beyond he could not tell. He saw Nabu, his son, mourning his absence. He saw Babylon, his city, rising and falling in an endless cycle. He saw Enlil's mocking gaze, the council turning away from him as his pleas echoed through eternity. He felt abandoned, forgotten. It was then, after a time, Marduk's human wife, Sarpanit, a descendant of Adapa, pleaded for mercy to Inanna and Utu, the grandchildren twin gods of Enlil. She, that brought their son handsome Nabu to Enki. She demanded that Marduk's life be spared. Enki, torn between duty and sorrow, sought a compromise. Ninhursag intervened, convincing Enlil that exile, not death, was the answer. A deal was struck. Marduk would be exiled, and Ninurta would inherit dominion over the land. The Igigi loyal to Marduk were ordered to abandon their posts. Enki, seeing no other path, agreed. To rescue Marduk from his stone prison, Ningish Zida devised a plan. He studied the hidden mechanisms of the Ikur. After breaking through into the grand gallery of the Ikur pyramid, Thoth and his rescue team guided a brink of death Marduk back, retracing their steps. The entry from the descending passage was sealed once more, to be uncovered centuries later by Al-Mamun's men. Inside the pyramid, the upper and lower parts of the well shaft were now connected by a twisted, harshly carved tunnel, forever altered. As for Marduk, the prisoner of the pyramid, the texts of Mesopotamia tell that, ordered by Anu, he sent away into exile to Egypt with his family. Around 2000 BC, Marduk reappeared in Egypt, seeking to reclaim his power. But in doing so, humanity would pay a bitter and heavy price, for he would lose his only love by a karmic and valorous retribution. Marduk's relentless ambition placed him at odds with his family, particularly his father Enki and brother Thoth, as well as his uncle Enlil, who is also known as Yahweh. Thoth, an Anunnaki ruler of ancient Egypt for 16,000 years, was eventually commanded by Enki to abandon Egypt and establish new civilizations in what are now the Mayan and Aztec regions. Marduk, however, refused to relinquish power, waging campaigns to erase Thoth and Inanna's influence over the Black Lands and rewrite history to position himself as the undisputed god of the land. Amun-Ra was deeply troubled. Inanna's dreams and visions hinted at claims over Dumuzi's domain, stirring his unease. Determined to counter her ambitions, he sought a way to expand his own influence. The mysteries of resurrection and immortality consumed his thoughts, and the idea of divine godhood fascinated him. He declared himself a great god. When he learned how much of an extended life had been granted to Gilgamesh, who was largely of earthly origin, his anger grew. However, he saw an opportunity to secure the loyalty of kings and their people. If demigods are shown the path to immortality, he reasoned, then let this privilege be granted to the rulers of my own lands. Thus, Marduk, known in the second region as Amun-Ra, decreed, "Let the kings and pharaohs of my domain, who are of Anunnaki lineage, journey to Nibiru in the afterlife and claim their place among the gods." Amun-Ra's promise of immortality was a divine contract, a sacred oath that bound the pharaohs to his will. He decreed that those of his sacred lineage, his chosen rulers, were destined not for mortal decay, but for eternal life beyond the stars. They would journey through the Duat, the underworld, navigating its perils using the spells and incantations of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a celestial map designed to guide their spirits through the interstellar Stargate and onto Nibiru, the throne of the gods. But this was not a journey any mortal could undertake alone. Marduk's return after his imprisonment in the pyramid sent ripples through the divine order and the mortal realm alike. He had not forgotten the betrayals, the wars waged against him by his own kin, nor the attempts to erase his name from the great cities that once exalted him. He had spent his exile in bitter contemplation, waiting for the moment when the cosmic balance would shift in his favor. When that moment arrived, he emerged once more, cloaked in the grandeur of his divine essence, adopting the mantle of Amun-Ra, the Hidden One. No longer content to be merely a god of Babylon, Marduk turned his gaze upon the land of Kemet, where Pharaoh Amenhotep III ruled in splendor. His descent upon the Nile Valley was met with awe and trepidation. To the common people, it was as though the very sun had taken form and walked among them, for his radiance was undeniable. To the priests and ruling elite, his arrival was both a revelation and a threat, for he carried with him the weight of a celestial mandate, the declaration of his supremacy over all other gods. His time of exile was over. Now, he would reclaim his dominion. It was within the royal court of Thebes that Marduk beheld Tae, the great royal wife of Amenhotep III. Unlike the many consorts of the pharaoh, Tae was no mere ornament of the throne. She was a woman of great wisdom and influence, a queen whose presence shaped the policies of the kingdom. Her lineage bore traces of divine blood, a legacy passed down through the generations of Kemet's nobility. Marduk, in his divine will, took Tia as his own under the veil of night, within the secrecy of the inner sanctums of the palace. To the world, she remained the wife of the pharaoh, but in the unseen realms, she became the consort of the god incarnate. From their union, a child was conceived, a being of dual nature, carrying within him both the blood of men and the essence of the gods. This child was Akhenaten, the one who would later shatter the old pantheon, defying centuries of tradition and ushering Kemet into the age of monotheism. His very existence was a disruption to the established order, for he was born not merely as a prince, but as the offspring of Amun-Ra himself. Pharaoh Amenhotep III, known for his keen foresight, was not blind to the significance of these events. He sought an audience with Amun-Ra himself, standing before Marduk in an act of reverence and defiance. With a heart burdened by questions, he addressed the god, saying, "Are you not my father, as you are the father of my son? By what right do you command my worship alone, when the gods have ruled alongside you since the dawn of time?" Marduk, in all his celestial majesty, declared, "I am the father of you all. I alone am supreme, for the others are but my brethren, their reigns mere illusions. Their time is at an end. No longer shall you bow before the many, for I shall be the only god sung in the temples of Kemet. Cast down the others, and let only my name remain." It was Akhenaten, now grown and bearing the weight of his divine heritage, who upheld this command. He did not merely accept his role, he embraced it. He knew that he was more than mortal, the demigod son of Amun-Ra, destined to fulfill the will of his celestial father. Under Marduk's decree, the great shift began. The mighty temples of Amun, Ptah, and Thoth trembled as their altars were desecrated, their idols cast into the dust. The priesthood, once the architects of Kemet's spiritual order, found themselves powerless against the will of the new pharaoh. But Marduk's vision was not merely to dominate Kemet, it was to begin anew. Akhenaten was entrusted with a sacred task, to send forth the Ark of the Covenant, a vessel of divine energy and power, to a new land where Kemet would be reborn. Within the Ark lay the relics of the gods, the ancient symbols of power that had guided the kingdom for millennia. With its departure, the old world was left behind. The gods who once ruled Kemet were silenced, their images stripped from the walls, their temples abandoned to time. Only the dominion of Amun-Ra remained. Thus began the exodus of the divine, and with it, the forging of a new order, one where the son of Marduk, Akhenaten, would stand alone, bearing the radiance of the one true God. Amun-Ra issued then a decree that forever altered the spiritual landscape of his realm. Every conquered tribe and people were to utter the sacred word, Amen. This was no mere greeting or ending prayer. It was a powerful act of homage, a binding spell that affirmed his everlasting power of spirit, which maintained the enduring strength of his soul. By demanding that his subjects invoke Amen, Amun-Ra sought to weave an unbreakable bond of loyalty, ensuring that his essence would remain ever potent in the hearts and souls of men. This profound truth, however, was kept hidden from the pharaohs. They had long clung to the belief that by preserving their divine bloodline to Amun-Ra and adhering to his elaborate rituals, they would secure a place among the masquerading gods. Yet Amun-Ra himself harbored a dangerous secret. His promise of immortality was a carefully constructed illusion. Even he was not exempt from the cosmic order, being ultimately subject to the will of his father and the great father, Anu. In the celestial hierarchy, only those deemed worthy by Prince Enki could truly ascend, while all others, regardless of their power or devotion, were condemned to an eternal trial in the underworld's Hall of Judgment. Prince Enki, celebrated for his wisdom and mercy, had long championed a balance of power between gods and mortals. Unlike his ambitious son Amun-Ra, who craved absolute dominion and enforced his rule through the ritual of Amen, Enki offered humanity the gifts of knowledge, life, and a genuine chance at spiritual ascension. The favor of Enki was not a matter of divine birthright. The pharaohs, despite their esteemed lineage, were subjected to the rigorous cosmic standards of Ma'at. Only those who attained true enlightenment could earn their passage to Nibiru, the realm of the gods. Yet beneath these lofty ideals lay a web of deception spun by Amun-Ra. The pyramid tombs, meticulously aligned with the stars, were not celestial gateways, but prisons for the soul. These structures bound the pharaohs to an endless cycle of servitude, instilling in them the false hope of eventual ascension to Nibiru while they remained ensnared in the afterlife. Through his edict, Demanding that all speak Amen, Amun-Ra ensured that his divine lineage and the collective devotion of his subjects would be inextricably linked to his authority. Ultimately, however, the fate of souls was not his to determine. It was Enki, known as Ptah, the true progenitor of the Egyptian gods, who held the keys to their destiny. Thus, the pharaohs ruled with fervent faith, wielded power with conviction, and pursued a promise that was never meant to be fulfilled. The legacy of Amun-Ra, sealed with the echo of Amen, was one of control rather than salvation, a celestial ruse designed to perpetuate his dominion through the ages, ensuring that his spirit, bolstered by the eternal symbol of the Ankh, would remain unchallenged. Long ago, on the ancient sands of Kemet near the Nile, the golden light of Ra stretched across the vast lands, illuminating the temples, rivers, and cities of both men and gods. Each morning, he emerged from the horizon in his celestial bark, journeying across the heavens, and by dusk he descended into the underworld, only to rise again with the dawn. The gods worshipped him, mortals feared him, and the world depended on him. But beneath his radiant might, Ra carried a burden. Age had begun to weigh upon him. His body, once as strong as the cosmos, now bore the marks of time, and with each passing day, his presence wavered. Yet power, like the shifting sands, never remains in one hand forever. In the grand halls of the gods, Isis, the goddess of magic, watched Ra closely. She was not merely a daughter of the divine, she was the most cunning of them all. Her wisdom surpassed the stars, her magic could command the winds, and her ambition knew no bounds. She had learned many secrets of the cosmos, but one knowledge eluded her: the true name of Ra, the name that held the key to his very essence. If she could possess it, she would wield power beyond any god, beyond even the throne of the sun. Determined, Isis devised a plan. She knew that Ra's strength was waning, and with weakness came vulnerability. One day, as the great god walked the world, she observed him closely. His mouth, weary from endless rule, opened slightly, and from it fell a single droplet of divine essence. His spit, unnoticed by all except the watchful eyes of the goddess. With careful hands, she scooped the droplet from the dust of the earth and worked her magic upon it. Chanting ancient words of power, she mixed it with the soil and molded it into the form of a snake, one unlike any that had ever slithered upon the ground. It was no ordinary serpent. It pulsed with the divine energy of Ra himself. Unlike the creatures of nature, this one was bound to the will of Isis alone, a silent assassin born not from the chaos of the world, but from the essence of a god. She placed the serpent at the crossroad where Ra passed each day, ensuring that it remained unseen, lurking in the dust. Then she waited. As dawn broke, Amun-Ra, oblivious to the trap laid before him, strode forward in his daily journey across the lands. The gods trailed behind him, singing hymns of praise. But before he could take another step, a sudden pain erupted in his flesh. The serpent had struck. A fire unlike any before coursed through his veins, hotter than the flames of creation, colder than the deepest abyss. He gasped, his vision darkening, his mighty frame trembling as the venom worked its way through his divine essence. The gods panicked, rushing to his side, yet none could help, for the poison was of his own being. "What has happened?" they cried. "What force can wound the great Ra?" The mighty sun god, the ruler of all, staggered and fell to his knees. His body burned, sweat poured from him like the Nile in flood, and his vision blurred. "Summon the gods," Ra gasped. "Summon those wise in magic, for I am undone." The divine assembly gathered, each desperate to find a cure, yet no one knew how to dispel a poison that was born of Ra himself. Then, from the shadows, Isis stepped forward, her expression calm, her voice a beacon in the storm of divine fear. "Divine Father," she spoke gently, though her heart raced with triumph. "You are the greatest of gods, the Lord of creation. But this venom does not know your titles, nor does it heed your power. Only one thing can break its grasp." Ra's eyes filled with pain met hers. What must I do?" he groaned. "Your true name, Father," she whispered, "the name hidden even from the gods. Speak it to me, and I shall weave a spell to cast the poison from your veins." The gods fell silent. Amun-Ra hesitated. He had kept his name secret since the dawn of time, for it was his greatest power, the core of his divinity. If another possessed it, they could command him, control him. But the venom surged deeper, coiling around his soul like a great serpent of the underworld. He could resist no longer. With great effort, Ra lifted his head, his voice weak yet filled with ancient authority. "I am Ra, the creator of all things. I am the father of the gods, the one who brought forth the primordial waters. I am he who spoke the first word, who formed the sky and the earth. I am the burning disk, the everlasting fire, the light that gives life to the just and burns the wicked. I am the keeper of Ma'at, the one who rises and falls yet never perishes. I am the Lord of the two horizons, the one who knows the secrets of the Duat. I am older than the oldest, more powerful than the mightiest." His voice wavered as the venom clutched his heart, and the gods trembled at his words. But Isis did not bow. She stood unwavering, her piercing eyes locked onto his fading light. Ra's breath grew ragged, the weight of the moment heavy upon him. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he uttered, "Yet none of these titles can save me now. My true name, the name hidden in the void before time, is..." He leaned close, and in that instant he surrendered the final secret. His name, the very essence of his being, passed from his lips to hers. "I am Amun-Ra." Amun-Ra, though healed, felt the weight of what he had lost. He knew that Isis, in her wisdom, would never use his name against him. For now. But the power she held could not be undone. She had become the wielder of the unseen force that ruled the gods themselves. She had not sought his throne, nor his dominion, but something far greater, control over destiny itself. With Ra's true name in her grasp, Isis ensured that no force, not even the sun god, could oppose her will. And thus the balance of the ancient gods that came from heaven to earth shifted forever. Though Amun-Ra still reigned in the sky, the true power of the cosmos now whispered in the hands of the goddess of magic, the one who had outwitted the sun. From that moment forward, Amun-Ra's rule, though still mighty, was never the same. The gods knew that Isis now held the unspoken key to the celestial order. And in the silent echoes of creation, the cosmic scales tilted in favor of the goddess whose wisdom had conquered even the light of the sun. According to certain Enlilite doctrines, Marduk, also known as Amun-Ra, is portrayed as the son of Lucifer, a figure intrinsically linked to the prophesied second coming. His insatiable ambition and defiant nature ultimately led to his downfall, and as punishment, both he and his fallen followers were condemned to remain bound to this physical realm, enduring endless cycles of reincarnation. Stripped of his divine ascension, Marduk was fated to roam the earth, a realm he once sought to command. Despite this eternal damnation, ancient covenants established by King Anu decreed that Marduk retained rightful ownership of the planet, thereby securing his dominion over humanity and the secretive Anunnaki agenda. Although many believe that the gods of old have long since departed, whispers persist of clandestine cabals within elite circles that continue to revere Marduk. These shadowy groups operate behind the scenes of global power structures, striving to perpetuate intellectual and spiritual subjugation in his name. Enhancing his enigmatic presence, ancient texts recount the existence of the halls of Amenti, a sophisticated technological rejuvenation chamber. Through this remarkable device, Marduk, or Amun-Ra, could transfer his divine avatar into various human forms. Predominantly, he is depicted with a dark brown complexion reminiscent of ancient Egyptian nobility, though at times he appears in a striking blue hue. This technological marvel allowed him to perpetuate his influence by assuming multiple appearances across the ages. Popular belief further intertwines Amun-Ra's bloodline with that of Egyptian royalty, including the lineage of King Tutankhamun and Alexander the Great. it is speculated that vestiges of his divine genealogy persist among modern bloodlines, maintained through selective breeding and advanced extraterrestrial genetic manipulation. This enduring lineage ensures that Marduk's influence remains deeply embedded in the fabric of human civilization and the embedded worship gene. Even in our modern era, Amun-Ra's and his royal family legacy endures through global financial systems, hierarchical institutions, and secret societies, many of which continue to invoke his name in religious and political symbolism. His presence is said to permeate the unseen mechanisms that shape our world. Each utterance of Amen is believed to breathe life into his spirit, just as the ancient Egyptians once revered him. The ultimate question remains: is Marduk still watching, waiting for his moment to reclaim his throne? Or has he already been subdued by higher cosmic powers? And beyond Marduk, what of the Anunnaki? Will their ancient dominion over humanity ever be challenged? Or will their primordial transgressions finally be brought to account? Let us know your thoughts. Is Amun-Ra, the extraterrestrial overlord of Earth, still in control, or has his reign come to an end? If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Astral Legends for more ancient myths and astral adventures. We want to remind you that every living being holds within them the incredible power and strength of the universal creator. May the eternal light guide your path, and see you on the next episode.